So once you're happy that there's no leaks along the full length of air supply hose, the next thing to do, quick check on the emergency stop, ice only, key switch, all in the safe position, and then turn on the valve on the side of the machine. Once you do turn that on, what you'll notice is on the blast air gauge you should have something close to or similar to the output pressure of the system that you're connected to, the air supply system that you're connected to, be that the mobile compressor or the site air, as it is in this case. So we're reading 6 bar on there, we're reading 6 bar or 5.5 bar on there. Great. They're not the world's most accurate guess. To sort of tally, I would say probably introduce a 1.5 bar tolerance into that. But you'll know instantly if it's not right. Once you're happy that that's okay, pick up the nozzle and drape it over your shoulder, because you're about to go through the process now of arming the machine and arming the trigger ready for use. And the reason that we want to do that first of all is to set our ice feed pressure, and that has to be done dynamically, i.e. the machine running, but the machine running in the ice only position. The way that the machine works, or the way that the selector switch works, in the ice only position, all that does when you pull the trigger is support air to the motor that drives the auger that feeds the ice into the tube. That's all it does. It won't fire any blast air. But also, by going through this process, you're also making sure that you've connected everything correctly. And one of the biggest faults, not so much with this particular type of machine, but with the newer SMC machine, is getting the trigger tubes crossed over. If you do that and you pull the trigger, yes, the machine will start, but when you let the trigger go, it won't stop, and it'll keep going. So this is another important reason for going through this particular process, is that if you discover that you've got them the wrong way around, all that's going to happen is that motor will continue to run. Got the nozzle draped over your shoulder, we're ready to arm it to check the ice feed rate. First thing to do, key switch into the on position, double check the selector switches in the ice only position, reset the emergency stop by twisting the black collar and allowing the plunger to pop out, and still nothing will happen until you hit that reset button. Once I hit that reset button, that will arm the trigger. You should be able to hear, if it's a nice quiet environment, a slight leakage of air through the trigger, through the nozzle. That indicates that you're porting air down the right tube and not out of that one. So you know that you've got the back of the machine connected up correctly. You know you've got it connected up to the right one at this end. Next thing to do, squeeze the trigger. A couple of seconds delay, off goes the motor. Now that knocking sound that you can hear is a percussion arm, which repeatedly bangs against the side of the hopper to keep the flow of ice pellets nice and smooth down into the auger. If you peer in through the mesh here, you can see that there's the screw, and that is the screw, or the auger, that feeds the ice into it. Now, if you remember, I said to set the ice feed rate, it's done dynamically. We let go of the trigger and that pressure reads 1.4 bar. Running, it reads approximately 1 bar. 1 bar is more or less the optimum figure in terms of ice feed. It's just about across the whole range of cleaning processes and nozzles. It gives just about the right amount of ice for the sort of cleaning that you're going to be doing. If you need to adjust it, be it down or up, then do it dynamically and do it using this regulator here. And as you can hear, as I turn that up, the motor gets faster. And by default, that's pumping more ice into it. So we recommend 1 bar. You shouldn't really, in most circumstances, need to go much above that. I mean, the most I've ever had to go up to is about 1.2, and that's it. Lower than that, yes, if you've got something that's very, very easy to clean, drop it down. You'll save ice, because you won't need it. But basically, the process will clean at the rate that the dirt wants to come off at. at the end of the day. And if you can reduce the amount of ice used to achieve the same result, then do so. You're going to save money at the end of the day. But we found that the optimum is the 1 bar dynamic. So once you're happy that your ice feed rate is set correctly, the next thing to do, and I've done this on purpose, is to dry out the inside of the hopper. As you can see, there's a hell of a lot of moisture in here, and the reason that that's in there is because last night I left some ice in there on purpose to simulate this. This will occur, if you leave a little bit of ice in there, this will occur within a couple of hours, because the ice will sublime and the water that has already been attracted onto the ice, that water ice will melt and it will leave condensation. The other thing is that the hopper, after a couple of hours of blasting, will have chilled down a lot, so you'll get the same effect. You'll get condensation settling on the inside of it. That needs to be got rid of before you introduce any ice into this machine. If I was to put ice in there now, the whole thing would freeze up. Chances are the auger would not turn, because it would freeze up. The water ice would just lock it solid. So you need to make sure that that is dry before you introduce any ice. And the best way to do that is to blast it with clean, dry blast air. So before you put any ice in. Right. So it's at this point we need to put PPE on, because it's going to get noisy. So we'll hit the emergency stop. At any point that you're going to put this nozzle down or hand it over to anybody else, before you do so, hit that emergency stop. That way, if you put it down, especially with this type of nozzle, without this safety interlock, somebody could walk up, pick it up, squeeze the trigger, and set it off unknowingly. And if you're handing it over to somebody who's not really concentrating, and they grab it by the trigger, whoa, off it goes. So if you're going to do that, emergency stop. Disarms the trigger and makes it sort of safe. If you're going to walk away from the machine, go for a tea break or whatever, then you make the machine completely safe. You shut it down completely.